Welcome to the Wolverine.com podcast. I am Clayton Sayfie with Austin Fox. This is the Maize and Blue breakdown. Remember to check us out at the Wolverine.com. Use the promo code Blue60 for 2 months of our premium content for free. You can interact with members on our premium message board, get all the inside scoops, all the premium articles, promo code Blue60. Austin, what's going on this week? This is week 2 of the Michigan basketball pause. We're coming off a signing day. What's up?
How's it going, man? I mentioned last week that I'd been playing quite a bit of ping pong. Unfortunately, I did not get any ping pong in this past week, so I'm going to have to pick that up again here pretty quick. But yeah, I think Michigan had a great signing day yesterday, and it was really good to see them close this 2021 class as well as they did.
I dabbled in a little darts over the weekend, and I'm quite good at it. So that's kind of what I've been up to. I guess I just played once, so I've been doing other things too.
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that because I actually played darts about a week ago as well with some outstanding Westphalia people, and I forgot how much fun it was. I hadn't played in years, but we got a game going. I forget what it was. It might have been cricket, but yeah, darts is a blast, man, and it's something that I could see myself playing a lot more as well moving forward.
Yep, I need to get in a league for sure.
Yeah, I don't know of any darts leagues, but I'll let you know if I hear of any.
There's got to be one. There's got to be one somewhere. Yeah, so we're coming off a signing day like we mentioned. Michigan finishes with some fireworks on Wednesday with Rayshon Benny flipping from Michigan State to Michigan, and that's really the headliner. They also got Ike Iwana, the 3-star defensive tackle out of Garland, Texas, then hung on to George Rooks, who committed a week prior, also a defensive lineman, a 4-star out of Jersey City. But, I mean, Austin, Rayshon Benny was the headliner yesterday on Wednesday, and just a huge win on the recruiting trail for not only Jim Harbaugh and, Sean Nua and Sharon Moore, the guys who've been really involved with this recruitment from the beginning, but the new staff. Mike Hart was involved. Ron Bellamy coming from West Bloomfield and joining as Michigan's new wide receivers coach. We talked about last week, I think, or the week before on this show that, hey, Ron Bellamy is going to be huge when it comes to in-state recruiting. We saw it immediately with Rayshon Benny. They played against each other for 4 years, being in the same conference there in the Detroit area. Rayshon Benny coming out of Oak Park, the number 98 player in the country, defensive tackle, a position of need for Michigan, and just a huge win overall. They did not stop recruiting this kid once he committed to Michigan State, and it paid off.
Yeah, it really did, and it was a big pickup for Michigan, not only on the field, but for perception as well. You talked about Ron Bellamy and his addition to this Michigan staff, the former West Bloomfield coach. I spoke with Josh Helmholt yesterday, Rivals.com's Midwest recruiting analyst, and he has no doubt that Ron Bellamy played a pretty big factor in Rayshon Benny's recruitment down the stretch, even though Bellamy just joined Harbaugh's staff. Like you said, Rayshon Benny is a top 100 player in the country. He's the 5th best player in what was a loaded crop of talent in the state of Michigan this year. So he's a guy who could potentially make an instant impact on the field. I actually went to one of his games at Oak Park this past fall. I believe it was in mid-October, right before he pledged to Michigan State. And he said at the time that he thought he knew where he was going to commit at the time, but he was having second thoughts. And most people took that as Michigan in Michigan's favor, meaning he was likely going to pledge to Michigan, but was then having second thoughts. So I think a part of him was always kind of with Michigan, even while he was committed to MSU. And then obviously him not signing during the early signing period, I think opened a lot of people's eyes and realized that, hey, maybe Michigan still has a shot here. Our E.J. Holland was adamant all along that the door had not been closed and that Michigan was still a factor in his recruitment. So it was good to see them finish the deal. Obviously, MSU fans aren't too happy about it. I think that really served as a kick in the face yesterday to them. But Rayshon Benny's a huge pickup. He's Michigan's 7th top 100 prospect in this 2021 class, which ties the most ever for Michigan since 2002 during the Rivals.com era. So they really could not have closed this 2021 class any better.
Yeah, and you mentioned EJ and how he was on top of this, and shout out to him really from the beginning, ever since, well, even before, obviously, was leading the charge on this, reporting on this recruitment, even before he committed to Michigan State. But then even after, he was like, hey, like you said, the door's still open. Michigan's continuing to recruit him, and he's been receptive to it. he took so much flack on social media every time he would post an update on Rayshon Benny, or his picture showed up on a thumbnail of an article or something like that. And Michigan State fans would come after him and come after him. And Austin, we have, as staff members of the Wolverine on the Rivals platform, we have access over to the Michigan State message board. And man, it was fun reading over there yesterday. I hope I'm still allowed that access after, just reading. And I know EJ got banned over there for liking a couple messages, but they were pretty nasty, and that'll happen with a fan base. I'm not throwing shade at fans in general, but you know they they thought they were hanging on to Rayshon Benny. They thought there was nothing to the smoke, and EJ was adamant, and so were we, that he's receptive in listening to Michigan and continuing to, and egg on their face was really what I thought of. Michigan State had egg on their face yesterday when Rayshon Benny decided to come to Michigan, and you kind of touched on this, but it did feel like, and I talked to him a few times as well. We both went out and saw him play and had some good conversations with him. A really good kid. I felt like he wanted to be at Michigan, before he committed, and then I hadn't talked to him afterwards, but it did kind of feel that way, that it was always going to trend that way. And he chose Michigan State for whatever reason after Michigan State beat Michigan on the field and, last season. But it just felt right, I think, that he flipped at the end, and I think that's why he kept listening and kept listening. And then maybe a guy like Ron Bellamy put it over the top.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't read some of Michigan State's message boards post yesterday as well.
How can you not?
Exactly. If you wanted a good laugh, man, that was the place to go. And honestly, it was pretty pathetic what some of their posters were posting. You have grown men bashing an 18-year-old kid like crazy, saying they want nothing but bad things to happen to him at Michigan and stuff like that. Obviously, that's a small portion of the fan base, but it's pathetic when you see stuff like that. And I know every fan base around the country has fans like that. And again, they're the minority, but it's a shame that they come out the way they do. They weren't happy with EJ Holland, even though he proved once again that he has some of the best sources in the entire industry. He was all over this thing from the get-go, and obviously he turned out to be right. So props to him, man, and props to this Michigan coaching staff for not giving up on Rayshon Benny. I know a lot of people frown upon poaching another school's pledges, but you know what? That's just the state of college football nowadays and the state of recruiting. And again, every school around the country does it, and you have to do it nowadays if you want to come out on top.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that anymore. It's gamesmanship at this point. It's basically how it's gone. And if you want to close with a kid, well, then continue to recruit him yourself. He didn't sign with you in the early period. You didn't do enough there, and you left the door open, as we keep saying. And here you go. He's a Michigan Wolverine. I love how he just tweeted out yesterday. He was a Michigan State commit, and then around, I think, 8:40 a.m., he just tweets a graphic of him signed with Michigan and says official. So it was like, when you see that originally, if you didn't look at the graphic, you would assume he signed with Michigan State, but it was not the case. A huge win for Michigan on the trail over Michigan State, and just kind of step on their throat a little bit more when it comes to recruiting. You got to beat them on the field. Last year's loss was inexcusable, but you don't want them to get any momentum on the recruiting trail either. And, I think yesterday was huge for that cause. But yeah, that was a headliner out of the late signing day. It's kind of lost its luster in recent years, ever since they started the early period of signing. Austin, I wanted to talk about a former Michigan football player who is in the Super Bowl again, playing quarterback, Chad Henne in the Super Bowl here.
That's exactly who I thought you were referring to this whole time.
Hey, I mean, Mahomes had, I think, the concussion, right? Or maybe it wasn't a concussion. And Henne had come in that game, in the divisional round against the Browns. And then Mahomes also kind of has turf toe. And I think he'll be fine, but you never know if something happens in that game. It might be Chad Henne against Tom Brady, who, by the way, is who I was kind of referring to there, starting his 10th Super Bowl. He has played 19 full seasons. He was hurt for an entire year. He got hurt on the first drive of, I think, the 2007 season. He didn't start his rookie year, so this is his 21st year. You take out those two, he's in the Super Bowl, 10 out of 19. He's now going to appear in over 18% of all Super Bowls. I would not bet against Tom Brady. I was going to ask you for a Super Bowl prediction, but just talk about, I mean, how just incredible it is. And it's basically been my entire lifetime where this guy is in the Super Bowl more than half the time.
It is incredible, and I think one of the most amazing aspects surrounding his entire career is where it began and what he came from and how hard he worked to get here. He was, I believe, a third-string quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, on his early in his high school career, and he wasn't even playing. He gets to Michigan, and he's buried on the depth chart. He had to work his way up just to see the field at Michigan, and then you had a similar scenario early in his career at New England where I believe it was Drew Bledsoe before him. And then obviously once he took over that starting job, the rest is history. He's all about hard work, man. And that's unfortunately not what all elite athletes are about nowadays. Some of them don't put in the work that they should, but Tom Brady, that's never been the case for him. So he's the ideal role model, and he's the greatest football player ever to play the game. That's really not even a debate anymore. I know some people will throw in a Joe Montana or a Drew Brees or Peyton Manning or whoever it may be, but again, it's not even close. Some people like to point out Aaron Rodgers, and Chris Ballas posted an outstanding graphic on our message board the other day surrounding Aaron Rodgers. It involved several not so admirable stats surrounding Aaron Rodgers. I don't have it pulled up right now, but I'm sure you remember it better than I do. I think his record in NFC championship games is pathetic, and his amount of comeback wins that he's put together throughout his career is very bad too, especially against teams with winning records, which Tom Brady has done the opposite throughout his career. He's engineered comeback after comeback. His record in championship games is incredible. So unfortunately, I'll admit I doubted him against both the Saints and the Packers in this year's playoffs, and I was wrong both times. You know what? I'm going to keep that trend going. I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win this year's Super Bowl, and I'm hoping that I'm wrong once again.
Thank you, because now the Bucks are going to win. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I got the Aaron Rodgers thing pulled up, and I said this after the the Bucks beat the Packers in the NFC Championship game. Well, now Brady has as many NFC championships as Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. They each have one. He's been in the NFC for 1 year. Here's the Aaron Rodgers graphic. 0-42 when trailing a team with a winning record by more than a point in the fourth quarter. 2 playoff game winning drives, both against the Cowboys. Cowboys haven't been great, really, since the 90s. And then 1-4 in NFC Conference Championship games. So he's gotten there. He can get there, but he can't win them that often. 1-8 when trailing at halftime in the playoffs. 17 fourth quarter comebacks, which is less than Joe Flacco. And then 7-8 playoff records since his Super Bowl run. He's not my GOAT. That's what the graphic says. He's not mine either. And Tom Brady, I think, is the best athlete of all time. I think he's surpassed really anybody. And if he gets 7, that's one more than Michael Jordan had, with the Chicago Bulls. He already is that, to me, the best athlete of all time, the most accomplished and just the most dominant. When you look at the 10 out of 19, the flex by Tom Brady at his Super Bowl quote unquote opening night, I think it was midday on Monday, but press conference, and he said, man, he sat down in front of a computer to do his virtual thing, and he was like, man, this is different than the other 9 times I've been here. And everyone was tweeting that out and that quote, because it was like, all right, this guy has been here. I mean, if you go back to his first Super Bowl almost 20 years ago against the Rams, I mean, what a flex. And he deserves to be able to say that because it's also true, but just an incredible career.
Yeah, it really is. It's nothing short of amazing, and I think he's proven it once again with what he did with Tampa Bay this year. I think a lot of people prior to this NFL season realized that, hey, you know what, it's going to take more than one player to turn Tampa Bay around and get them into the playoffs, seeing as how they hadn't been there in forever. I forget the last time they made it, but I think it's been at least 10 or 15 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it was 2007.
Yeah, there you go. And basically, it did only take one player, and that's Tom Brady. And you know what? Tampa head coach Bruce Arians admitted that after the Packers win. He said in that trophy celebration after the game, you know what? This is because of one man, Tom Brady. So that just shows you the impact he's had, not only on Tampa's offense, but their franchise as a whole. I think players flock to him. They want to play with him and they want to be teammates with him because of not only the kind of player he is, but the kind of person he is as well, and how much leadership he has.
Absolutely. So I will give my prediction. So the Bucks are 3-point underdogs. I'm taking them to win this game. I would not bet against Tom Brady. I did not in the first two playoff games, and I will not in this game. But you got the Chiefs. I like that. It's probably the safer pick, to be honest. But at the same time, then how is it safer to bet against Tom Brady? People are saying the same things about Pat Mahomes now, though. You know, he's the next great quarterback. I don't think he'll get as many Super Bowl rings as Brady, but it's tough to bet against him too. But it's going to be a heck of a game, I think. And this Bucks defense has been outstanding in the playoffs too. So you're going to stick with the Chiefs?
Yeah, I'm sticking with the Chiefs.
Okay.
One.
All right, I like it. I like it. Head to head on this matchup. So it's good to pick a football game once again here. And yeah, Frank Clark also on the Chiefs. We mentioned Chad Henne, Tom Brady. Who am I missing?
Yeah, the Chiefs at
Mike Dana.
Yup. Him at the end as well. Taco Charlton is injured, but he's technically on their roster as well. And Patrick Omame as well. We're going way back on this one, the offensive lineman. He is technically on the Chiefs practice squad, but he started the regular season finale when they rested their starter. So it'd be cool to see him at least on the roster. But you know what? Chiefs head coach Andy Reid once said? He said, you can never have too many Michigan guys on your roster. And Pete Carroll has said similar things in the past as well. And Steelers coach Mike Tomlin, these NFL guys love Michigan players and the way they're developed under Jim Harbaugh because of the way he does run things like an NFL franchise. So I think Michigan players are more prepared than most heading into their NFL careers.
I hope Omame gets a ring if they win.
Yeah, he's had a very long career. I believe his last year at Michigan was right around 2009, if I'm not mistaken. He's obviously never been a bona fide starter in the NFL, but hey, you know what? He's put in his time. He has been a quality player at times, especially with the Giants. So a guy like that is the type of people that you really love to see get the rings, and Chad Henne falls into that category as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And I hope at the same time, I hope Brady gets the ring.
I want Brady to get the ring more than Chad Henne and Patrick Omame. Sorry, Henne and Omame.
I agree. I'm completely with you. So that will be fun to watch. We'll see who was right on this game, but it is just going to be fun to watch. You know, it really doesn't feel like a Super Bowl without Brady in it, considering he's made 10 out of the 19 that he's been a full year starter. Let's talk about basketball before we do. We'll remind everybody that this podcast is brought to you in part by JFQ Lending. With interest rates below 3%, there's never been a better time to lock in a low fixed interest rate on your mortgage. You'll never need to think about refinancing again. Set it and forget it. And with JFQ Lending, you're guaranteed to get the highest level of customer service. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and over 3,000 5-star reviews. Give Chris Sabanish a call today at 480-562-6267 or email him directly at csabanish@jfqlending.com. JFQ Lending Incorporated, equal access lender, licensed in over 40 states. www.jfqlending.com. Austin, we talked about it at the top, the week 2 of this pause, and now with more information coming out. First of all, it's kind of absurd. They're not allowed to talk to the Big Ten yet. And I don't think this is a Big Ten rule. I think it's a Michigan thing until they get the all clear and they return to practice. They can't talk about rescheduling games yet. I'm sure they're starting to plan, and the Big Ten is maybe starting to plan that out, because the Big Ten, I'll give them credit for doing a good job at kind of, going with things on the fly where a team has to cancel a game and they can find a game for that, the other team within a day or two. So I'll give them credit on that. But it's just a shame, so they're supposed to return to practice on Sunday, the 7th, but it looks like they will not play on 4 days of practice or in-person activities against Illinois on Thursday, which I think makes sense. I mean, they haven't been able to do anything for 2 weeks. It's not like they just haven't played a game in 2 weeks. You can't do anything. These kids technically aren't supposed to leave their apartments unless they're like doing, I think there's a couple things. You can go on a light jog. That's about it. But they're doing stuff in their apartments, in their dorm rooms. So that'd be super tough, I think, for them to play. At the same time, Franz Wagner was on a podcast the other day and was saying that he wants to and he thinks they can do it, but I think out of safety, I think they won't. Um, and then the game on Sunday, the 14th at Wisconsin's up in the air, and it might be all the way until the next Thursday, February 18th, before they return, which is good and bad in a way because it means they would have more time to practice. They'd be less rusty. But at the same time, not playing a game in almost a month is a long time. And that means you'd have to squeeze more games in at the end of the schedule in a shorter period of time. So it's kind of a give and take, pick your poison type thing. There's no really good ideal situation here. But you just hope, I guess, that, if they weren't going to be ready Thursday, fine, bring them back when they're ready to do that. But you got to plan ahead and you don't really know what it's going to be like. So it's just a tough situation all around.
Yeah, it is very tough, and there's a lot of stupidity occurring here and a lot of overreaction, and I think people are fed up and sick of it. Michigan is not going to play their February 11th game against Illinois. That's been well documented. Hopefully they play on Valentine's Day, that Sunday, February 14th against Wisconsin. I think that's the absolute earliest they'll be playing, but get these guys back on the court, man. You said that players aren't supposed to leave their apartments. Give me a break, man. This whole thing is absurd. Not talking to the Big Ten about scheduling games ahead of time before a certain date is absolutely absurd as well. Whoever that came up with that rule has no common sense whatsoever. I mean, give me a break. How are you not allowed to talk to the conference about rescheduling games that need to be rescheduled? This whole thing blows my mind. I still can't believe they did the 2-week shutdown in the first place. I think most of us are in the same boat. We had heard Juwan Howard was furious with it. Phil Martelli spoke out against it, Howard's assistant. The players aren't happy. Nobody's happy here. And there's just the amount of stupidity going on throughout this whole thing blows my mind.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we've been in it now for so long. It's been like a week and a half where it's like I've come to grips with it. But going back to that decision, it doesn't seem to make much sense. I'll just say that. I just don't understand it. And there was really no transparency. They say follow the science, but I mean, they didn't present the science. They didn't present the facts of why they did it. So that's where the frustration came in. And you can add Franz Wagner to the list too. He said it was very, very frustrating the first few days, but now that they've kind of gotten used to it as well. Kind of like how I said, how I've dealt with it, I guess. So, but we're hearing they could return to the building Sunday, probably at the latest, and could be in the next few days here. So we will see what happens. And, I wouldn't rule out that Wisconsin game next Sunday, but and that would make sense, I think. You give them a week, right? Or, just over a week. Let's say they return today or tomorrow. You give them a week to prepare. I think it makes a lot of sense. As opposed to asking these kids who hadn't really left their apartments to play just a few days after against Illinois. At the same time, I don't think it's the players or the coaches that don't want to play. So, it's not their mindset that, oh, we won't be ready. I think it's more of a, top-down type of decision, and I understand it both ways. So, it'll be interesting, but you hope Michigan can get back, and we kind of talked about it last week. You hope they can get back to that level that they were playing at previously because, man, they look like one of the better teams in the country right now, and they look like right now a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So, you just hope they can get back to that level. Any other thoughts on basketball here? Is they're just in a standstill?
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that I don't think there's any question Juwan Howard and these players want to play ASAP. They're competitors. They want to get back on the court, as do the other high school players and coaches who are shut down around the state. So I think if they had it their way, they'd play anybody, anytime, anywhere. So I know I understand the logic in not playing Illinois on February 11th on such short practice time because it's not like Illinois is some scrub. It's not like they're Nebraska or anything like that. We saw how rusty Michigan State was at Rutgers when they came back after their shutdown and how bad they looked. But now we're just realizing that Michigan State is flat out bad. So
yeah, I was going to say that it feels like a different scenario there. I think they weren't good before they got paused. But at the same time, it is important to note as well that Michigan State, the guys that were healthy, I believe, were able to be in the building and shoot around and leave their apartments. This is, kind of a different thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. So Michigan not doing anything, not practicing, not lifting, not working out on a regular basis. There's bound to be some rust. after that. And again, I've said this countless times on these podcasts before, but I think it's going to take several games for them to get their legs back under them and get back into form. But again, I just hope they can do so prior to late February or so or early March, and especially the Big Ten and NCAA tournaments.
Definitely. And, you know, if they come back, I mean, I think that they will be able to. I wouldn't guarantee it. And I think that's what's frustrating is, you know, when you, let's say this Michigan team starts, you know, the way they did, and they kind of have a bad stretch and they get derailed and they finish second or third in the Big Ten. Fine. You know, it was in their hands, but this is like something just totally out of your control that has nothing to do with basketball. And, you know, I guess that's the nature of sports right now until this whole thing is over, you know, and it's unfortunate. Phil Martelli basically said that, um, you know, it's just something that is completely out of their control, affecting the things that kind of are in their control, you know, how they play and, you know, all this type of stuff, how hard they work. They can't work right now a whole lot. So it's just craziness. It's complete chaos. And we'll see if they're able to get back to that level. But that is it for our show this week. Catch us next week. We'll talk to everybody then. Remember to use the promo code BLUE60 at thewolverine.com for 2 months of our premium content for free. We'll talk to you next week.